Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Grief, the emotional shitstorm you never signed up for. My name is Margaret Dennis, and I'm the host of your show. And I am a women's life empowerment and holistic grief coach, working primarily with women who've been through grief and are looking to move beyond it into a world of joy without guilt. Today, I'm very honored to be joined by a very dear friend of mine and colleague, Karen Jones. She is an emotional mindset coach, and we have done a lot of work together within the mindset world, within the woo-woo world, as like people like to refer to it. And today, we're going to be focusing, as usual, around grief. So, welcome, Karen. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me, Margaret. It's really nice to be here.
Okay, so let's start with your thoughts around grief. Where, when it comes to grief, what comes up for you?
Grief is one of those experiences that every single person knows at some point it's going to happen to us, whether it's losing a job, losing a pet, moving countries, changing your environment, or the ultimate loss, which is the death of a loved one. We all know that. We know that we're born and we transition out of life. But even knowing that doesn't make that journey any easier when that journey comes knocking on your door. And if we're talking about the loss of someone at the moment, even if somebody has been sick for a long time and you're expecting that transition, it still hits you. It hits you as a shock, it hits you in your identity. And we become very, very challenged then based on your mindset, based on the people around you, on how you even navigate that journey and how it shows up for you. And the other thing is, we can have a loss maybe early on in our life that was particularly painful. And we believe that every loss that we're going to have is going to be like that. And that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one can be very, very different, even if it's the same, in the same family. Like when I lost my parents, when my parents transitioned, it was very different for each parent, um, and brought up a lot of emotional stuff for me when my parents transitioned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So mindset is something we haven't talked about on this show. We haven't
Okay.
got into mindset. So maybe could you give the audience a little bit of an explanation around when you talk about mindset, what that actually means?
Your mindset is your identity. It's who you believe you are. It's the thoughts that run through your head on a daily basis. You've heard the expression, when you set your mind to it, you can do anything. It's that, we are programming from our childhood. We are programmed from the moment we're born, even before we're born, but that's a different podcast. But we're programmed from the moment we're born, based in our families. We are told what we can and can't do, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, how strong we are. I've watched people with children that are as young as 18 months old and 2, 3, and the parent constantly tells the child, oh, they're so shy, they don't want to talk to you. Oh, they're so shy, they don't want to do this. And that child will grow up with that belief that they are shy, and that's not true. They are
Mm-hmm.
programmed into being shy. So, and on the flip side of that, our child is so brave, they're so confident, they're so this, so they grow up with that level of confidence. So, based on the whole slew of things, how we're raised, the dialogue in our home on a daily basis, the interactions with people in our home, the schools we go to, the religion that we associate with or not, whichever the case might be, sets up these belief systems within our body so that when something happens, those belief systems are challenged.
Mm-hmm.
So, the example I would give with that is if you were raised, I'm going to use females because you work primarily with females. So you were raised as a female, telling you, you just need to find a really good man that's going to support you, and you build a life together. You have your children, you build a nice home, and you create this environment where you feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
The female may have these emotions where they don't feel worthy, they don't feel lovable, they don't feel strong, they don't feel capable. But all of that is under the surface because they build a life with their partner that is their rock. They are the person that they are with. They are their support system. They go everywhere together. People will look at them and go, "Oh my gosh, your relationship is so good. You look like you joined at the hip, and you do everything together." But when one out of the relationship passes, not only is it traumatic because that person's passed, but it brings up all of those emotional belief systems now that have been under the surface or buried deep inside. And those might be, I can't do this by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I can't navigate this on my own. I can't do this. I don't know how to change a light bulb. I don't know how to do the banking. I'm not capable of doing this. And that narrative, which I call the inner critic, then not only is it tapped into the grief and loss and the emotion, which is very deep, that voice comes up in the head, which constantly feeds that emotion, which is, you can't do this by yourself. What are you going to do? I don't want to lose my home. I'm going to lose all my family. And that narrative just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, which then impacts and exacerbates on some occasions the level of grief that somebody's experiencing, because now they're not just navigating the loss of somebody, they're navigating all of these emotions and belief systems that are coming up from within them.
Mm-hmm. And you, as the person, would not know where all of this is coming from. It's just you're experiencing all of it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not like we walk around in our lives that we've created in that safety net. Like you said, you've created this safe environment with your partner and your family. And you may be very unaware of what's underneath the surface because you've covered it up
100%.
by the life that you've created. And there may be inklings, but we're really good at pushing them down and ignoring them.
Totally,
They
that's
hurt,
what we
right?
do. Yeah, we,
And
we we are
yeah,
programmed as human beings to search for happy.
yes, we are.
You just need to be happy. You just need to be
Mm-hmm.
happy. So if something emotional happens to you, and I can identify with this,
Mm-hmm.
if something emotional happens to you, then you push it to the side, you push it down, and you paint a smile on your face. And I just need to be happy. I just
Mm-hmm.
need to get through my day. I just need to do this, and then everything's going to be good. But when you don't navigate and explore the potentiality within an emotion that you are experiencing, you are actually stunting your own growth. And
So
as human
expand
beings,
on what you mean by that, exploring the potentiality.
okay, so within every emotion that we experience, whether it's pain, whether it's loss, whether it's joy, whether it's frustration, whether it's anger. Now, anger is the umbrella for a lot of other emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It
Oh,
comes
it's the
up as anger.
gatekeeper. It's a
It's the
gatekeeper. Mm-hmm.
gatekeeper. So when somebody says, I am so angry, well, okay, you've reached your limit, but what's underneath that?
Mm-hmm.
So when we push aside or ignore or we turn a blind eye, whatever term you choose to use, to emotions that are coming up, like frustration, like sadness, like pain, um, when we don't allow ourselves to fall into that emotion. That's the best way I can describe it.
Mm-hmm.
Got chills. When you allow yourself the time, you set aside time to cry
Mm-hmm.
and to explore anything that you're feeling. By tapping into those emotions, you will actually find that because you have allowed them to flow through you,
Mm-hmm.
you will come out the other side of that emotion feeling very different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Each emotion has a layer to it. So you can explore sadness and you go, I've done sadness, but sadness comes up in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So by allowing ourselves to sit into these emotions, we are actually tapping into the depth of our own wisdom, the depth of our own soul, the depth of our own intuition,
Mm-hmm.
the depth of our own beingness, and the depth of our own growth. Now, every single person on this planet is born to evolve and grow. That's the purpose of the journey, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But when we contain an emotion and we shove it down because we don't want to feel vulnerable, we don't want to tap into shame, we don't want to tap into guilt, we don't want to tap into loss, because we never allow ourselves to tap into that, we're always buffering around within those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So we never truly get to explore who we are,
Mm-hmm.
because all of these emotions are in a nice, tidy little box, and you're in the middle, and it's like buffering up against a brick wall. Every now and again,
Mm-hmm.
something will happen. You'll buffer up against more sadness. You'll buffer up against more loss. You'll buffer up against something that creates more anger, because we never actually allow ourselves to sit in them and explore them. Emotions are the navigation GPS of who we are and the fuel of our journey.
Mm-hmm. I
And I
love
don't know if
that.
that explains that. So, what that
I love,
means,
yeah.
yeah.
No,
So, what
keep
that
going,
means
keep going. This is fantastic.
when we tap into those emotions, we are actually allowing ourselves to explore what that actually means for us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll give you an example for that.
Okay.
So, many years ago, my son transitioned into my daughter. Okay. I had always prided myself, let's put that there, in my belief system that I raise my children to speak their truth, know their truth, and know who they are,
Mm-hmm.
until that challenged how that looked for me.
Mm, okay.
Okay. The minute it challenged how that looked for me, and my son told me that he wanted to transition into female, first of all, it was hitting the blind panic and fear.
Mm-hmm.
And then that panic and fear brought me into a narrative inside of my own body, inside my own head, of what will other people think? What will people say? What will people, how will they be treated? Blah, blah, blah. And this took me on to, I'm going to call that the catastrophic train of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That when you're on it, you can be 25 years into the future and you're on this train and you don't know how the hell to get off it. But once for me, once I became aware that I was experiencing these emotions, I actually sat in the emotion and asked myself what that meant for me. And it was actually nothing about my son.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about me and how I was going to be perceived, how
Mm-hmm.
I was going to then be able to show up. What that experience that my son was now going to go through actually shattered an identity within me, and also a belief system within me.
Mm-hmm.
And it also challenged something that I created within me. Okay.
Yeah.
So all of these things that we experience, then, not only are you experience the grief and loss, you are also experiencing your own belief system within that grief and loss. You're experiencing what you believe other people are going to judge you within
Mm-hmm.
that grief and loss, and how you are going to be perceived
Mm-hmm.
within the experience that you're having. So that's multi layers of emotions and feelings that majority of it, I'd say most of the planet, are never ever taught how to emotionally navigate.
No, no.
Because as a
People
kid, you taught
run from emotions.
pick yourself up, dust yourself off, get on with it. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're
We
more
never really
comfortable pushing
experienced.
them aside. We're more comfortable pushing the emotions aside. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we're also, well, one of the things I teach a lot is that our brain is wired to avoid anything that could be painful, whether it's emotional or physical pain, right? So when we
Yeah,
perceive someone who's grieving, or we perceive a situation for ourselves that could be emotionally painful, our brain will do everything it can to get us out of that pain. And so it could be putting everything into boxes, right? Categorizing, pushing it away, pushing it down, ignoring it, um, getting ourselves distracted by other things, when really actually sitting with the emotion, allowing ourselves to go through it. And I love the way you said allow yourself to go through it and move through it, because emotions are energy in motion. And so if we
totally.
move through that energy and we move through those emotions, we release that energy that's inside of us, and we make the space to be lighter. We make the space to be able to deal with other things, move through other emotions, move through other experiences in a way that it's not all piling up like a pressure cooker. So yeah,
100%.
I love it.
100%.
So what
And
would
part
you,
of
what,
that,
yeah, keep going.
I was going
Sorry.
to say, part of that is, when people cry,
Mm-hmm.
they're afraid to cry because they believe they'll never stop. They're
100%.
afraid to tap into the anger because if they're angry, they're afraid that that anger is going to be pushed onto someone else or
Mm-hmm.
expressed through or to someone else. But when you can find that there's a safe place to be able to process
Mm-hmm.
any of those emotions, which is what you and I do, you
Mm-hmm.
know, with what we do with coaching, different areas, same expression. Grief comes up in many, many, many different forms.
Yes, it does.
So when we can hold space for someone to be able to express every single thing that they're feeling and tell them it's okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to experience every single one of those emotions. But the process is there has to be a light at the end of the tunnel. There has to be a journey. We're on a journey. From the
Mm-hmm.
time we're born till the time we transition, we're on a journey. And if you never allow yourself to navigate through the weaving process of those emotions and actually understand what they mean for you and become the observer of the emotion, then you never really grow beyond it.
Mm-hmm. 100%. 100%. And so what suggestion would you give to people who are just are in grief and things are coming up for them? What would be one thing you would recommend that they do?
Um, there'd be a few things, if you can reach out to somebody, the biggest thing is finding somebody that you can reach out to that you trust,
Mm-hmm.
that will hold space for you. And what I mean by hold space for you is they don't need to hold you, they don't need to fuss over you, they just need to allow you. Okay. If you can't find yourself a coach, find somebody that's going to be able to hold that space for you, to be able to express what you're feeling. And if you don't have anybody in your life, get yourself a huge teddy bear,
Mm-hmm.
stick it on your bed or your chair and talk to the teddy bear, give it a name and say, do you know what? I just need to tell you how I'm feeling. I just need to tell you that I am really upset at this. So that's something you can do. Journaling is massive.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I would say with journaling, I used to journal a lot when I was younger. And when I went through a huge transition in my life, um, I was actually told by my intuition to actually burn the journals. So journals are really powerful for dumping emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say to you, if you're going through a really, really bad day, don't go back and read everything that you wrote because it amplifies what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You could have two journals, one for dumping and one for expressing the joy that you feel. So you use one for dumping all the emotions and everything that you're feeling and dump and dump and dump. And then when you're feeling good, you write it in a different journal. When you've done the journal that you've done dumping in, burn it,
Mm-hmm.
transition it, let it
Mm-hmm.
go, and
Yeah.
you go back and read all the things within your good, powerful journal that you've uncovered about yourself. I'm so happy and grateful that now I can pay my own bills. I can change a light bulb. I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm finding myself. What does it mean to find yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You were never really lost.
But that term is bantered around all the time, isn't it? And
Right.
even when people go through grief, or like we're finding who you like, you talked about it earlier about rediscovering that identity. Who are you now, right? When we experience something really deep and impactful like grief, who are we now, right? Um, we've lost a spouse or a child or a parent or a friend through death, or we've lost a job, or we've lost a home, or we've had to move across the country for work, and so our social circle has changed, and there's grief, like we said, it comes in so many different forms. But every time something happens, it hits us, and we have to
Mm-hmm.
adjust who we are, and we have a different identity that we have to incorporate into this part of who we are now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's giving ourselves the space and the grace and the compassion and the permission. I find so many women that I work with just need permission to
Yeah.
feel, which is really, really mind blowing. That we need to say, it's okay. Like you said earlier, it's okay to feel angry and frustrated and resentful and relief and anger and all those things. But giving permission, I've had so many women visibly relax
Yeah.
when I've said, you are allowed to feel this
Because,
way,
yeah, because
because
we're
we've been
programmed not.
stifling. Exactly. And so if you think you're doing it on a day-to-day basis, when something major like grief comes along, think about how much you're going to push down then,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because our society in North America, if you're listening elsewhere, we're in North America. Our society doesn't want to see it, touch it, taste it, knowing that it's even there. We're like, oh, for a couple of weeks, you can be sad. But then after that, please don't bring it out because we don't want to see it. And so then we, by very nonverbal consensus in society, we learn to keep it to ourselves, keep it in our
Mm-hmm.
house, don't take it out, stuff it away when we go to work, stuff it away when we go to the grocery store, stuff it away when we drop our kids at daycare, or and do anything social. We don't bring it up anymore. Whereas it could be something that we really need to express, and we need, and
Mm-hmm.
after a couple of weeks, we're not done grieving. After a couple of weeks, when we experience grief, it stays with us forever. It's something that becomes part of us, and it's how do we move through that, how do we move forward with it, how do we incorporate it into who we are. And that's where it ties into our identity.
Totally.
It's like,
Um,
I
um,
experienced this thing and now it's changed me.
yeah. And one of the things that I will say to people, which people find difficult sometimes to wrap their head around, is you are not your emotions. You are experiencing emotions.
Oh, I love that.
You're
I
not
love
your anger,
that.
you're experiencing anger. You're not your sadness, you're experiencing sadness. You're not any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
You are experiencing them. So, a powerful question when you are navigating any of those experiences is to say, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why I'm experiencing that today.
Mm-hmm. Be
That's in
curious.
favorite word. You
It
know that,
is. It
Margaret.
is. It is.
My favorite statement. That's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I wonder why I'm experiencing that right now. Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I've not felt that for a long time. I wonder what's coming up for me right now. Because what you do by saying, that's interesting, I am experiencing, is you are separating yourself as the being
Mm-hmm.
experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
You are a being experiencing. Everything in this life, you are a being experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
We attach our identity to everything.
Mm-hmm.
We attach our identity to our phone. We attach our identity to our friendships, our homes. And that is where that comes from when something transitions, that identity then is being challenged.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. I did a meditation once that was really powerful. And if I can find it, I'll link it in the notes below. But it was one that literally had you take away everything that we identified. Remove yourself from being a mom and a sister and a daughter and a friend and a colleague and a CEO and the PTA president, and from being, a homeowner, from being a car driver, anything, like just
Yeah.
anything that you would attach as your role. Because I think we unconsciously just give everything roles, because then we can compartmentalize and make sense of things. But if you strip all of that away, the question exactly that is, who am I? If I take away all of this, who am I at the core of who I am? And I think that can be really scary for a lot of people to go that deep,
Mhm.
because when you strip away all the things that you've identified yourself as, and that's what happens when you lose somebody, you have to, you were a wife, now you're a widow. You're a mom, now you're a grieving mom.
Yeah.
You were a daughter, now you're mourning the loss of a parent. So you're shifting how you show up in the world, you're shifting that identity. It's really, really important to go within and figure out, who am I, without any of the labels, without any of the roles that I play in my life? Who am I at my core? And how do I want to connect to that person and come forward into this new chapter of
Mhm.
my life? Because it is a new chapter when something very heavily, like even going through, we went through COVID. Everybody went through COVID. We all experienced it. We all experienced it differently. We all came out different on the other side. Some of us are
Mhm.
still moving through it, some of us aren't. Same thing when we experience, oh, I don't know, our own personal things. So there's the community ones we experience, and then there's the ones that we experience individually. Everything affects us, but it's, how do we stay true to who we are, and how do we figure out who we are as we incorporate all these experiences and continue to move forward.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about that, it's asking yourself that question: how does this really impact me?
Mm-hmm.
What is it I'm really feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I express what I'm really feeling?
Yeah, without
And once I
judgment.
express how I'm really feeling, I can let go of it, because once I've expressed it, I've been heard.
Mm-hmm.
And once I've been heard, I've been validated. And
Mm-hmm.
when I've been validated and somebody's really heard what I'm feeling, then who am I beyond that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot
And
of people,
yeah.
I love that. I love that, because we tend to identify with our experiences and with the emotions attached to it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
but and emotions are not, they're not solid, they're not solid.
No.
They are flowing, they are vibrational. They are
Mm-hmm.
here as a navigation to your GPS, which is your internal GPS within you. Hey, wait a minute, I'm actually experiencing something right now. Is that experience something that I want to experience again? Is that experiencing something that is transitioning me into something else? Is that something that's actually breaking away my identity of who I thought I was based on what other people want me to be,
Mm-hmm.
or who I formed myself to be? And if I allow myself to experience all of those feelings, who am I going to be on the other side of that?
Mm-hmm.
Because that can be it's challenging, but it can be
Mm-hmm.
incredibly exciting. And this is where mindset really comes in,
Mm-hmm.
because you cannot hold two vibrations at the same time. You cannot be happy and sad at the same time. You cannot be grieving and excited at the same time. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to process and navigate through these emotions so that you can tap in to the polarity, the opposite one of the one you're experiencing.
Right.
And it's a constant flow in and out of navigating till your mindset moves, and your energy and everything moves into the vibration that you truly want to hold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. All right. We are coming to the end of the podcast. What would you like to leave the audience with today? What would be the one piece of advice or suggestion?
For anybody that's going through anything that they are grieving right now, and that can be multiple levels of that grief that you're experiencing, take a deep breath. First of all, breathe. Second of all, notice that this is something that you are experiencing, and allow yourself to experience it, navigate through it, and notice what happens to you on the other side of that. Because everything has a beginning and end, and so do these emotions. You navigate beyond them. And it's not that grief goes away, but we always miss the person that we lost, or we miss something that wasn't there. And that's okay. You hold them in your heart, they never leave you. But you can hold a different vibration and truth for yourself when you move and navigate through that, so that you can be who you truly are on the other side of it.
Mhm. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here with us today,
You're
Karen.
welcome.
Really appreciated you sharing all of your wisdom. So, thank you everyone for joining us today. I will drop Karen's contact information in the notes below. So, if you wanted to reach out to her, you're welcome to do that. And as always, thank you for joining us. And we will be back to the next episode on grief, the emotional shitstorm you never signed up for.